Chapter 2.9, Film Part 2. Okay, so we just looked at Birth of a Nation, and then that's very early in film. And then we get into Orson Welles' Citizen Kane, which is considered by some lists, if you look at AFI lists or different lists, the best film, the greatest film ever made. Although I think Rotten Tomatoes does not give it 100%, which is interesting. So 1941, Orson Welles is making a film about Hearst, William Randolph Hearst. William Randolph Hearst was a publisher, extremely wealthy, kind of the Rupert Murdoch of his day, but even bigger than that. He has a castle in California that had, I don't know, several acres, had a zoo. It's just really over the top. And so anyway, his rise to fame and the sense of capitalism and the American dream was sort of an idea that Orson Welles was lampooning. Now you can see from this angle, this is kind of at a diagonal. You can see that he's using that sense of like discord or things are not quite right. Even though this guy's giving a speech, he's supposed to be powerful, and here's a big picture of himself behind himself, and there's all these people on the dais. And it's supposed to be, a reverent moment or a moment of power. But Orson Welles is such a genius. He's putting this diagonal in here, and he's doing this upshot where it's a little distorted or weird of looking up toward him. So he's crafty, Orson Welles is, and he uses a lot of different camera angles. He uses flashbacks. He uses deep focus, and he was the one who initially, because we're into sound, he initially used people talking more than one person talking at a time. So dialogue that wasn't super staged and enunciated carefully so you could hear it, that started with him. So he did a lot of different things. Also the editing. But camera shots, all kinds of things happening. Camera on a dolly. They build like a little miniature railroad track to roll the camera on for smooth while somebody's walking. Make it smooth while somebody's walking. All kinds of stuff. So he is the early auteur, the early person to watch. In filmmaking, he was also very powerful with Mercury Theater in New York originally. Very young and genius, did all these stage plays, radio plays. He's responsible for War of the Worlds. People really thought that there was an alien attack. He has such a convincing voice. Amazing voice actor as well. He acted, directed, and wrote this. Well, he co-wrote it, I think, or he got some help. There's a recent film called Mank, M-A-N-K, about Mankiewicz, who wrote the film. That's just a recent Netflix with Gary Oldman. At any rate, Orson Welles, huge genius. Film wasn't appreciated at the time, but now is considered one of the most important films of all time. Sound and color come in the late 20s. The color starts as a novelty, right? Because, again, it's expensive and it's not widely used. So anything that's kind of not a lot, any technical innovation, has to do with any kind of anything, like a microwave or a TV or whatever. When they first start making something, it's expensive because, they're not mass producing those materials. So it's a novelty, but then later, after 27, it becomes more common. Film noir, which goes well into the 40s and early 50s, uses black and white film for an edgier, darker, shadowy effect that has to do with the lower parts of life and murder and so on. So that stays in black and white. So some films have color, some don't. It's a transitional period in the 30s. Dialogue and background noise are built into the film itself. It's not overlaid or dubbed. Victor Fleming, this is the artwork for the scene from The Wizard of Oz. Now, The Wizard of Oz is amazing for a lot of reasons, but one of the uses of color, or the use of color, is one of the reasons. So, The Wizard of Oz is done in color in the fantasy land, where Dorothy goes with the Tin Man and the Lion and the Scarecrow. And when she's in this magical land of Oz, everything's in color. But part of the film, not very much of it, but part of it is in black and white in the beginning and the end when she is actually in Kansas. So reality's black and white, fantasy is color, and this is, absolutely hugely famous, 1939. It's crazy to think about all the things that happened in 1939. I don't want to get too distracted, but a lot of brilliant films happened that same year. But it's distinguishing with color, reality from fantasy. Singing in the Rain is an interesting film. It's one of the most popular musicals of all time, and it does some innovative things in it. But it's also a film about a film, or a film about the film world and the transition from silent film to sound. So it's made in 52. It's talking about the 20s. So the costumes are meant to look very 20s, but it really looks very 50s to me anyway. Debbie Reynolds, Gene Kelly, Donald O'Connor dancing their hearts out. Some amazing, most amazing dance sequences you'll ever see. Gene Kelly's probably the one of the premier dancers anywhere in the world in the 20th century. Baryshnikov thinks of him as the best dancer that lived at the time. At any rate, they're dancing and they're commenting on the dubbing that had to happen for actors' voices and singing in the 20s in the silent film era. All right, another film that comments on the silent film era, and I don't exactly know why we're choosing these examples in this book because I'm a real film person, and this is a little odd to me to sort of demonstrate something old by using something new. But at any rate, this film won the Best Picture in 2011, and it is all done silently, and it was commenting again on the 20s and 30s silent film era. It was made in France, and it's called The Artist. Beautifully done, very detailed, careful, um, careful research on this, so it's done really well. So it shows how vividly actors can communicate through gesture and expression. And I think, with advertising, we probably see that more than anything else. Some comedy really uses this more than anything else because you can really see the actors' faces and the eyes bulging, or just all that expressive stuff that people do without sound. It's amazing that arts, film is sound and music, but really, sorry, sound and visuals. Visual art of film is the most important thing because that is, you're really looking at the film. You're kind of listening to, but you're really looking. So the artist is harkening back to the idea that film is a visual medium,